A common question for beginning facilitators is how engaged their audience should be. What is the proper level of engagement for participants? There is no simple answer because there are several different levels of participation. In this video, I will introduce you to the different levels of participation. We can use a ladder to visualize them. As people climb up the ladder, they become more active and engaged. The first rung of the ladder is informing. Participants are not engaged on this level. The leader makes a decision without asking for anyone's input. They simply tell everyone what their decision is. Sometimes, this is how it should be done. If a house is on fire, it's best if someone shouts instructions for how to escape. However, not all decisions should be made as if you were inside a burning building. If all decisions took place on the informing level, there would not be much enthusiasm or commitment by participants, no matter how charismatic the leader is. The second rung of the ladder is called the asking level. Participation starts on the second level where people are asked to share views that they support the best possible decision. For example, in strategy work, we might ask employees about how they think the business should be developed. On this level, it's important to tell the participants that they won't be involved in the actual decision making, but that the decision will be made after the participants have shared their thoughts. If you don't communicate that the decision-making process clearly enough, people might think that they have influence over what decision is made. This could lead to disappointment if their thoughts and ideas are not in line with what was decided. To avoid this, communicate the purpose of the event clearly to the participants and tell them how the decision-making process works. The third level of participation is implementing. This is the level where leaders give the group a clear direction or proposed solution to turn into reality. The decision may be refined through conversation, which means the participants have a chance to influence the outcome. The more you think about the topic together, the more motivating it is for the participants to commit to the practical implementation of the decision. Strategies and decisions are often implemented on this level. The fourth level of participation is solutions. Here the group is given the responsibility to clarify the situation and propose solutions. The decision-making body will review what the group has proposed, and if they don't accept it as it is, they will ask the group to modify their proposal. This is a common way for a board of directors to engage management teams in creating a proposition for the company strategy. The fifth and final level of participation is deciding together. The group will clarify the problem and set goals in addition to planning solutions and actions. The group can make those decisions that it has power over. However, this level of group decision-making often moves very slowly. So, why do we always use participative decision-making? Why is it so difficult? Engaging others in decision-making means giving up some of the power and control. It requires trust and focus to succeed. If we increase participation but fail to make sure there's trust and a shared direction, chaos ensues. If we increase participation but don't give up any power, the participation is just for show, which can be even more detrimental than commanding or informing. In the worst-case scenario, this fake engagement can lead to the loss of motivation. People won't show up to meetings, or they will be disillusioned and think that their voice doesn't matter, even if it does. Think carefully about your organization. How do you conduct business? What level of decision-making do you normally operate on? The levels are fluid and can change, even within the same meeting. We will inform people about certain things, collect information on other things, and make a group decision. Keep in mind that can be frustrating for participants if they're only engaged in trivial things, but excluded from the important decisions. The organizational culture dictates which issues are important. Does one person have the power to decide which type of coffee to buy for the office? You can't work where I work. The person in charge of ordering the coffee beans must ask the other coffee drinkers for their opinions. Once they do this, then they can decide what coffee to buy. In low hierarchy workplaces, it is common these days for people to have the power to make decisions once they have opinions from those who will be affected by their decision. You can facilitate on all levels of participation, but it's important to remember that you need to use different techniques and methods for each level. On the informing level, facilitation is about activating discussion about what we have heard and what the decision means for everyone. The goal is to create an understanding of the decision so that it becomes easier to implement. You can also facilitate the planning of actions. In this case, every person or team thinks about how they will implement the decision. However, not all decisions require actions. It might be pointless to form groups if there is no need for discussion or planning when informing people about a decision. On the asking level, facilitation is about asking for information to support the decision-making process. In this stage, we will try to listen to everyone whose job will be affected by the decision. Doing this gives the decision makers the right information and best possible understanding of the situation. If we can't acknowledge all views, this has to be stated transparently to avoid fake engagement. Participants tend to be slightly more excited and committed to decisions made on this level than on the informing level because now their opinions are being heard and appreciated. When making the final decision, you should tell the participants what information you have heard and give reasons why you made the decision you did. On the implementing level, facilitation is about creating understanding of the proposition that will be implemented. In this level, you can analyze the pros and cons of the proposition as well as the possibilities and concerns. Then, you can come up with solutions to the cons and agree on how the proposition will be carried out. It's important that the participants only focus on planning things that they have influence over. If they don't have control over something, or if a matter has already been settled, you have to clearly communicate this. Often, a strategy is implemented by describing the shared vision and strategic upper-level decision. The group's task then is to create a shared understanding of what this means for their work. They will solidify the solutions to implement the strategy and agree on what actions to take, what they will do differently from now on, what they will maintain, and what they will quit. When you're asking for a proposition and making a group decision, the facilitation process looks similar. People first clarify the situation, goals, or problem, and then they come up with the solutions and actions together. The difference is that when asking for a proposition, participants don't have the authority to make a decision. This means that the final product must be so refined that it can easily be presented to the decision makers. Engagement is important because it helps you make better use of people's expertise and increase people's commitment to decisions. However, if people don't have any real influence over the outcome, the engagement is artificial and dull. Think carefully about which level of participation is appropriate for the situation you find yourself in.